Greetings to everyone out there in the No DQ galaxy. Welcome to the No DQ live recap of the final WWE pay-per-view of the decade. WWE TLC 2019. Let's go ahead and discuss the show. We had tables, ladders, chairs, stairs, kendo sticks, everything but the kitchen sink. If you want the kitchen sink, you have to go back and watch WrestleMania 13 when Hawk from LOD actually did, in fact, bring out a kitchen sink for their hardcore match. We kicked off with the kickoff, of course, and the kickoff match for this pay-per-view was a rematch from Monday Night Raw. We had Andrade versus Humberto. Interestingly enough, it was not 50-50 booking, which is what I thought it was going to be when this match was announced. I'm like, okay, Andrade's going to get his win back, but no. Humberto beat him twice. Cleaver Colin Andrew with the $2 super chat says, so TLC without a chairs match, question mark. Yeah, no chairs match, although that was probably a good thing that we did not get a chairs match. In the Andrade match with Humberto, they had the same spot from Raw where there was miscommunication between Andrade and Zelina, but they actually caught it this time, and Humberto tried to win the way he won on Raw, but Andrade was able to counter that. However, Humberto did fight him off. Humberto hit an inverted Hurricane Rana and then hit the big moonsault, which looked very nice in instant replay in slow motion, to score back-to-back victories over Andrade. Andrade stormed off after the match. I mentioned during the Raw recap, I'm not a fan of Andrade and Zelina breaking up. I think they're a good pairing. They're a good team. Not sure where this is going, but I'm a little concerned for Andrade's future, unless maybe him and Charlotte form a union at some point and they become a power duo in WWE. I suppose that's always a possibility. So yeah, I guess on one hand, I'm sad about the potential split between Zelina and Andrade, but at the same time, I'm glad WWE did not go the 50-50 booking route that they tend to do. Match was fine. We kicked off the pay-per-view with the SmackDown Tag Team title match. Now, before the match, we had the opening to the pay-per-view, which was a little different than usual because it featured Bray Wyatt and the Firefly Funhouse. And Bray Wyatt talked about how everyone involved just needs a little tender, loving care. And he said it in his evil, demonic voice. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, will the fans boo Roman Reigns if he wins the Royal Rumble? They might. Maybe not as much as they would have back in 2015. And plus, it's a bigger venue. It's the baseball stadium that this pay-per-view will take place at. So you'll have your good amount of casual fans. You might get a decent reaction. Might be a mix. Might be 60-40. Who knows? So we had New Day versus Revival. I thought this was a pretty solid match from these guys. Kofi always shines in these types of matches. Revival did some interesting moves during this match, including a suplex off the top rope. There was a ladder that was set up like a bridge between the ring post and the ladder in the center. And we had Big E suplexed off the top through this ladder, except Big E did not really go through it. Like his shoulder kind of hit the ladder as he was going down. It was pretty brutal. Kofi came back in, jumped on the ladder, springboard leaping off of the ropes onto the ladder. And he used the championships. He knocked, I believe it was Dawson, off the ladder. And Kofi managed to grab the titles. New Day, still your SmackDown Tag Team title holders. And also during the match, Big E hit the big ending off of the ladder. So even Big E got to shine in this match. Very solid opener to the show, in my opinion. Harold Warren with a $10 super chat. Thank you for that, Harold. I really do appreciate it. He says, on a scale of 0 to 10 for the WWE TLC, I will give it a 6. Well, you have to find out what I give it in just a few minutes. 6. Do you guys agree or disagree with Harold Warren's assessment of this pay-per-view? Let me know in the chat room. Power Packers 90 with the $2 super chat. Thank you for that. He says, Marge, I'm confused. Is this a happy or sad ending at TLC? It's an ending. Got your reference there. Let's see. Next up, we had the singles match between Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy. Pretty solid match from these guys. I like Buddy Murphy coming in and mocking Aleister Black with his sit-down pose. Black got his nose busted up at some point. And I also forgot to mention that earlier in the kickoff match, Andrade also got busted open. So, funny enough, in the first 3 matches, 2 of the matches, somebody got their face busted up, and it wasn't from the ladder match. So there you go. And Buddy Murphy was also grabbing Aleister's ring jacket, and Black just eventually snapped and went to town on him. Murphy had a lot of offense in this match. He got a near fall with a brain buster, but in the end, Aleister, pretty much out of nowhere, hit the Black Mass to score the victory. And I do have to say one other thing. He needs new ring gear, Aleister Black. What he wore tonight looked like a guy that crapped his pants, basically. I didn't like the color, and then the butt area was very dark. Just never wear those tights again. Never. Bad idea. Moving on here, we had the Viking Raiders Open Challenge. And this is when the show started to go downhill for me. I thought it started off pretty strong. And then at this point, I was just rolling my eyes with what was going on for a lot of the rest of this show. We had the Viking Raiders come out to issue their open challenge, and let's do the Christmas Vacation drum roll, everybody. It was the OC. That's right, OC. After all that, it was the OC. Why not just do the match that we were all expecting in the first place and not try to give people this false hope that maybe there'll be a big surprise? We all thought, coming off of Raw, that it was going to be Viking Raiders versus OC. Why did you do the open challenge thing? There was no point to that whatsoever. None. You just set people up to be disappointed by doing that. Seriously. And the funny thing is, we all expect disappointment that when it was announced that it was going to be an open challenge, we all figured it was still going to be OC anyways. So it's like, it served no purpose whatsoever. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, how come you don't hate Marco Stunt like Robbie Vice does? Well, the thing is, Robbie Vice doesn't send me super chats changing the subject and going off topic, but I think there's a place for Marco Stunt, like I've said before, in AEW. I think there's a place for him being the Spike Dudley of the Jurassic Express. But thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. So we had OC come out, and OC cut this long promo about how they're the only team to beat the Raiders, and the Open Challenge was lame, blah, blah, blah. We had the match. Raiders hit the Viking Experience, but Gallows broke it up, and then they both ended up on the outside of the ring, and guess what? They got counted out. So this Open Challenge with the OC that we were all expecting anyways ended in a count out, settling absolutely nothing. Then, after the match, we had a segment where, okay, so before the match, it was announced that these fans had won ringside seats, I guess, at this KFC sponsored table with fried chicken all over the place. This was, keep in mind, right after a match where a guy got his nose busted up and there was probably blood all over the place, and now these guys are feasting on fried chicken and blood. But anyways, after the match, the Raiders powerbombed Anderson through this KFC table. I have to say, AEW did it better with Cracker Barrel and using the Cracker Barrel in the match. That was better product placement as far as I'm concerned. So AEW gets the W on this one, in my opinion. Now we move on to the TLC match. Pinfall or submission only, no climbing anything. The big dog, Roman Reigns versus King Baron Corbin. Corbin came out, cut a little promo, said that Roman Reigns will be forced to bend a knee to him. Right off the bat, Corbin's security went after Reigns. Reigns took all of them out. He put one of the guys through a table. Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin, they brawled on the stage, in the crowd, back in the ring. Corbin was mocking Reigns, trying to hit the spear. That did not work. Corbin brought out a can of dog food and used it as a weapon. And I guess this was effective because that dog food can be quite heavy, and I guess that makes it more powerful as a weapon. And then Corbin chokeslammed Reigns through a table. Reigns kicked out. Reigns then gave Corbin a Samoan drop through the announce table on the outside. And that's when, surprise, surprise, everybody, Dolph Ziggler shows up, gives Roman Reigns the super kick. Corbin and Ziggler then attacked one of the ringside workers and brought out the dog food and handcuffs. And I guess they wanted to humiliate this guy. Reigns then made the save. He grabbed the kendo stick. He started beating the crap out of everybody with the kendo stick. And then Revival showed up to attack Reigns. Reigns fought everybody off, did the big dive over the top onto everybody. However, the numbers game eventually caught up with Reigns. They all beat him down. And then Corbin hit the end of days on a steel chair to pin Roman Reigns. The game is on 100 with a $5 super chat. Says, well, it had to take Ziggles, Revival, Corbin, and Corbin's security to beat Roman. Well done, WWE. Well done to keep this going with New Day. Pointless. Well, here's my big issue with this match. Does Roman Reigns not have any friends? I mean, isn't he the locker room leader? Doesn't everybody look up to him? Ali, Shorty G, where are the Usos? You actually had fans chanting for the Usos during this match. This would have been a good time to bring them back if that was something you wanted to do, of course. But, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me that nobody would come out there to help Roman Reigns. And nobody would anticipate that Corbin would try to do something like this. So I have a really tough time suspending disbelief here. Like, WWE just went with their cheap way of beating Reigns, which is tons of shenanigans and everybody has to interfere. But where were the good guys in the SmackDown locker room to help Roman Reigns? The guy who won at Survivor Series for SmackDown. Nobody helps him. So yeah, I thought that this was pretty stupid, quite frankly. And just wait, because the stupidity continues. There's more. Next up, we had Bray Wyatt versus The Miz in a non-title match, because The Miz, former WWE champion, is just not worthy to have a Universal title match. And furthermore, he's not worthy to even face The Fiend. He has to face Mr. Rogers. I feel so bad for The Miz, because the guy does his job and he goes out there and puts on great performances, but Miz just looked like a total chump. I mean, that's really been the story of Miz in 2019. I mean, what a fall from grace. I mean, he still has Maurice and has a new kid, so life is good for Miz in real life, but as far as the TV character goes, it's been a pretty shitty year for The Miz. So Bray Wyatt comes out with the Firefly Funhouse theme. He's got the regular Universal title. And the story of the match was that Wyatt really wasn't that aggressive. Miz was beating the crap out of him, and Wyatt was kind of fighting back, but not really. Crowd was chanting "Yowie Wowie," which, they still like Bray Wyatt, even though he's supposed to be this dastardly, crazy lunatic heel. Miz hit the skull-crushing finale, but he did not go for the cover. He wanted to keep beating down Wyatt, and Wyatt started laughing, and eventually this backfired on the Miz. Wyatt hit the Sister Abigail on the outside of the ring. He went back into the ring. Miz nearly got counted out. He barely got back in at the count of 9. And then Wyatt hit another Sister Abigail in the ring to pick up the victory over the Miz. A very game Miz against Mr. Rogers. After the match, Wyatt said that he forgives the Miz. Then we had The Fiend appear on the big screen. Crowd was chanting, "Let him in." Wyatt went under the ring and pulled out the giant mallet. I guess Wyatt was not worried about anybody else like Roman Reigns or later on with Becky Lynch. He wasn't worried about anybody using this mallet since there were a bunch of no-holds-barred matches on this show. So Bray Wyatt pulled out this mallet and he was about to use it on The Miz to finish him off when the lights went out. And instead of The Fiend appearing, it was Daniel Bryan. Bryan hit the running knee. He took off his hoodie, and sure enough, we have the new Daniel Bryan, or the old Daniel Bryan, however you want to look at it. Basically, old school Bryan Danielson, American Dragon, short hair, short beard. He looks pretty much exactly the same as he did at the start of the decade. So good job, good clean living from Daniel Bryan to look pretty much the same, barely aging at all after 10 years. Bryan beat the crap out of him, and then the lights went out. Bryan was about to use the mallet on Wyatt when the lights went out, and when they came back on, Wyatt had disappeared. I liked the angle. I liked Daniel Bryan's return. I thought that was all well done, but like I said, I feel bad for The Miz. The Miz was the big loser in this segment, but the Daniel Bryan stuff was cool. I thought that was well done, and that's going to be the Royal Rumble match. Should be good stuff. Then we had the tables match, Rusev versus Bobby Lashley. Unfortunately for these guys, we just had a bunch of matches with tables involved, namely Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin, where they did a bunch of table spots. So it's like, what can these guys really do that we haven't seen already? And I feel like this, I don't know if it was the crowd or if it was just the way these matches were going down with a lot of the same weapons being used, table spots and all that. I know the crowd loves tables. They chant, "We want tables." But man, the crowd heat was just not there for a lot of this show. They were into the Viking Raiders, but then again, this was in Minnesota. And guess what? They just happened to have a football team named the Vikings. So it's like they're seeing the Viking Raiders come out and they're like, "Oh my God, our team is also called the Vikings. Yay!" It's like, I don't know if the fans really liked the Viking Raiders or they just associate them with their football team. But anyways, I mean, that probably got the most reaction. That and Bryan, of course. Crowd did pop big for that. But a lot of the rest of the show felt like the crowd just wasn't that loud. There wasn't much heat for this match other than your Rusev Day chants. Rusev tried to grab the table. Lana would interfere, and you kind of knew where this was all going with Lana being the difference maker. Rusev did do one different thing in this match. He grabbed the guardrail and he set it up. However, it backfired on him. Lashley chokeslammed Rusev through the guardrail, and I think it was this spot. I'm not entirely sure, but Rusev's back got cut up quite a bit, and it was probably from the guardrail spot, but I cannot confirm that. I would have to go back and watch. At some point, Rusev's back, you could tell it was pretty sliced up, and then right as Rusev was on the verge of winning the match, Lana jumped on his back. Lashley then took advantage of the situation and speared Rusev onto the table, not through the table. That was the table. It survived the wrath of a combined 500 pounds. So Lashley proceeded to take Rusev and throw him through the other table. Luckily, they had another table set up for this occasion. And this time, Rusev did go through. Bobby Lashley was the victor in this match. It was okay, but I mean, crowd just wasn't into it and felt like it was longer than it needed to be. And then we had the main event, Kabuki Warriors. And by the way, we got no Lana going through the table, which I thought would have been a fun spot to do, to have Rusev save face. Would have been a fun moment seeing Lana go through the table, but nope, none of that. We had Kabuki Warriors versus Becky and Charlotte Flair. Now, before the match, Street Profits did their little promo, but they were quickly interrupted by Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin, who were still fighting in the back, and there were other guys fighting for some reason. I don't know. They just felt like fighting. And then we had the main event match, Becky and Charlotte challenging Kabuki Warriors for the tag team titles. Man, this match, it felt like it went on forever. It was very slow paced. It took them a lot of time to set up all their big spots in the match, and it just felt like there was a lot of time setting things up, and to me it just really dragged. And there were a few interesting moments, like Kairi Sane pulled out a fire extinguisher and used it on Becky and Charlotte, and then Becky ended up being tied up on the ladder. What do you know? The heels outsmarting the baby faces here. Isn't it supposed to be the other way around? But Becky gets tied up, and then Charlotte eventually loosens the knot, and then Becky's able to get out of it. And then there was something that really perplexed me. So we had Asuka and Kairi go for not one of the many ladders surrounding the ring, but they went for the ladder that was on top of Charlotte Flair, preventing her from getting up. They pick up this ladder, which had a rope tied around it, and they had to spend time undoing the rope from the ladder, and it took them forever to set up the ladder. And I'm just thinking, why not grab one of the other ladders? Like, why did you waste all this time? It just went on forever. And then Charlotte and Becky came back, of course. Charlotte ended up getting powerbombed through one of the tables. And then Becky managed to start climbing this ladder, but the rope was still there. I guess they had to use this ladder because of the rope, because that was the finish. Asuka, from the outside, grabbed the rope and pulled the rope, which led to Becky falling over. And then Asuka climbed up the ladder and grabbed the women's tag team titles to retain. Now, this would have been a nice gesture, end TLC with a women's match and the women standing tall. The first pay-per-view of the decade, the 2010 Royal Rumble, the dark match that started the pay-per-view was a 10 Divas tag match, and then the one match that was on the pay-per-view only lasted 20 seconds. So this would have been a nice full circle here. End the pay-per-view on a high note with the women standing tall. But guess what? WWE couldn't even do that, because literally like 5 seconds after Asuka won the match, it cuts away to, you guessed it, Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin and all the other guys that were brawling. Asuka got like 5 seconds to hold up the championship, which, why even do this? Why even put the women's match on last if you're going to cut away from it right away like it's not important? I don't understand. You should have just ended with Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin if that's your real main event. But anyways, it is what it is. You had all these guys out there brawling, and they just happen to be in the right spot. Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin are up on the platform, and Roman gives him the spear off the platform onto everybody, and it was supposed to be this really spectacular moment, but I thought, like, you just ruin the women's match celebration, and this looks so choreographed and silly. I just rolled my eyes at it. So yeah, I thought the ending was pretty stupid, and I thought the main event was not that great. So yeah, kind of a flat end to the WWE pay-per-view year and a flat end to the decade. Let's go ahead and do the letter grade. I'm gonna go with a C minus. I thought it was a little bit below par. I just There were a few things I liked. I liked Daniel Bryan coming back. I thought that was really good. I liked the SmackDown Tag Team title match with New Day and Revival. But other than that, like, there's not really anything else on this pay-per-view that I would recommend you guys going out of your way to see. Like Reigns and Corbin, I mean, it was just pretty much exactly what you would expect, although I figured Reigns would win the match. Or somebody, because I thought in my mind, somebody would help him if it was going to be that type of storyline, that somebody would help him. But nope, didn't happen. So let's see what you guys thought in the chat room. Michael Wayne gives it a C. Joseph with a C minus. Lewis with a D. Harley with an F. People's WWE channel with a B. Zach with a C plus. Curtis Butler with a D plus. Zach with an F. Scott says F for finally WWE pay-per-view year is over. And Power Packers 90 with a D minus. And 90 Stalgia with a D minus. Game is on 100 with a D plus. So it looks like you guys were even more down on it than I was. Again, I thought that there were a few good things, but yeah, overall, I think it was a pretty skippable show. And it shouldn't be that way with TLC matches. But like I've said, I think you need to just get rid of the themed pay-per-views. Do a TLC match when a storyline calls for one. Don't just do it because, hey, we got a pay-per-view called TLC, we have to do a TLC match. I mean, I've been saying this for years, though. Walter Cruz with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Walter. He says, no need to end TLC that way. They disrespected the women's moment, but C minus pay-per-view. Yeah, I thought that ending was just so dumb and unnecessary. And one thing I also did not like about this pay-per-view, it just felt like nothing was settled. The pay-per-views, you should at least have some feuds settled. What really got settled on this show? I mean, Reigns and Corbin, that's going to keep going. OC and Viking Raiders, that's going to keep going. I guess Kabuki Warriors move on to something else, so maybe that's a positive. But yeah, I just felt like I felt very unsatisfied with a lot of what happened on this show. And Ken terminated by Google with a $5 super chat. And since he's got off topic, I'll wait a second here. Scott Briller with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Scott. He says, only good thing about this pay-per-view, Aaron, is your recap. Well, I really do appreciate that, Scott, and I appreciate you tuning in and watching. And likewise with everyone else, thank you guys for watching and supporting the channel throughout the entire year and hopefully beyond. Now, to Ken's question here, he's going off topic. He says, are you a Zelda mark? And 2, did you get the Awakenings 2019 remake? I do like the Zelda games. Obviously, I would not be wearing the shirt if I did not like the Zelda games. And no, I did not get the Awakenings 2019 remake, to answer your questions. Curtis Butler with a $2 super chat says, the best thing about this decade, knowing Aaron. Well, thank you, Curtis. I really do appreciate that sentiment. And Ken says, I did not know what else to ask for super chat. Well, it's all good, Ken. I do appreciate it. Link to the Past was my all-time favorite, though, growing up. I mean, that and, of course, can't beat the original. I never really liked the 3D ones as much as the older ones from Super Nintendo and Nintendo, but, they're all good stuff, or good shit, as Vince might say. So I'll go ahead and wrap up this stream, everybody. You can stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors and all the fallout from WWE TLC. I will be back tomorrow night to discuss Monday Night Raw. Stay tuned for that. And this Wednesday is going to be a lot of fun. AEW and NXT final shows from those brands this Wednesday. I'll be live streaming there too. Tell a friend, spread the word. I appreciate whatever you can do to help out the channel and make it grow for 2020. Whatever you can do is very much appreciated, and I am very grateful for you guys. On that note, I will see you all next time. Take care, everybody.